You know, Donald Trump recently said that the Iraq War was one of the worst decisions the United States ever made. I agree. He also said 10 years ago that Bush was one of the worst presidents of all time, or the worst president of all time. I would also agree. Yes, even with him in office. Due to the fact that most of the horrible shit that has happened started with him. So I agree with him on that. He agreed that he said that Bush could have prevented the 9/11 attacks. Now, I'm not sure you would have been able to prevent the 9/11 attack. Maybe you could have. But the casualties of 9/11 would have been a lot less severe had Bush had listened to the CIA, who had documents that Al Qaeda was ready to attack. And this was back in August of 2001. So, okay, I'll give him credit. He wants to be the anti-Bush. He has a real funny way of showing that, especially within the past few days. So, as you guys know, yesterday I believe, or 2 days ago, I don't fucking remember, all this shit with Trump seems to just blend right the fuck in. He fired Rex Tillerson, okay? He appointed his head of CIA, Mike Pompeo, who said he wants to execute Edward Snowden. So you think, okay, that guy's a pretty fucked up person. And you thought, oh, he's really fucked up to head the CIA. But then you forget who the deputy leader of the CIA was. Gina Haspel was one of the main people behind Bush's torture program. She ran a secret prison in Thailand where we tortured people. And make no mistake, it was torture. She fucking enjoyed it. Now before you fuckers say, oh, he's just a triggered liberal about Trump, MAGA, make America great again, triggered libtard, right? I know you're going to say that. However, I'm going to cite a Republican, a conservative, to back up my arguments. Former Senator Ron Paul. I have my issues with Ron Paul, but he's 100% right when he calls that torture. Same with Senator John McCain. He is also against torture. But here's a clip from Ron Paul.
Torture is illegal, and by our laws, it's illegal by international laws.
How do you define torture, sir?
Well, waterboarding is torture, and many other things. It's illegal under international law and under our law. It's also immoral, and it's also very impractical. There's no evidence that you really get reliable evidence. Why would you accept the position of torturing 100 people because you know one person might have information? And that's what you do when you accept the principle of torture. I think it's uncivilized, and have no practical advantages, and is really un-American to accept on principle that we will torture people that we capture.
And
Major, I have to weigh in on this. I have to say something.
I would also like to say that years ago, I studied what we did in Iraq, in Abu Ghraib. I studied what we did in Guantanamo Bay, back 7th grade. And what I learned, and what I saw, was absolutely horrible. What I remember from that assignment was horrible. My entire point was debunking torture, was saying that torture does not work. It doesn't work. You will not get accurate information with torture. You will not get anything from it. Torture does not work. Waterboarding does not work. Because you know what people do when they're tortured in most cases? They will say anything to get out of it, and therefore they will give you inaccurate information to make the pain stop. Of course they're going to give you whatever you want, right? Because they want the pain to stop. How hard is that to understand? So, of course, he appoints this person to be the head of the CIA. This person who should be in goddamn jail for what she did in Thailand. And for also being one of the main masterminds behind Bush's torture program. That's who the fuck he appointed. So when Trump says, oh, I'm the anti-Bush, he sure has a funny way of showing it. You know, when you appoint some of the worst fucking people from Bush's era and you give them positions of power like this and you expect them not to abuse it, you're a fucking delusional idiot. And if you can say MAGA, MAGA, MAGA over and over again, then you're just beyond stupid and beyond reasoning. This bitch is a war criminal. Plain and simple. She defied the U.S. Constitution, which says you cannot torture. There, by the by, cruel and unusual punishment. It's unconstitutional in the United States for us to do that. In the 8th Amendment, in the Bill of Rights, clear as day. Okay. So that in mind, it also defies international law. I want you people to go to your local library or go on the goddamn internet and look up the Geneva Conventions. Look at the Geneva Convention of 1949. Now, of course, being the asshole that Donald Trump is, around 2016, he kept ranting against the Geneva Conventions and saying they were out of date. Oh yes, of course. Laws that prevent us from torturing people are so out of date, right, Donald?
Would you allow U.S. interrogators to waterboard terrorist prisoners in order to extract information?
Absolutely. You know, this question was in the previous debate, okay? And they asked it of Ted Cruz. What do you think of waterboarding and what would you do and how bad? And he was like really weak on it. He was, he didn't want to get involved because he thought waterboarding was bad. So, of course it's bad, but it's not chopping off heads, folks, okay, that I can tell you. So they asked him, and he really gave a very incomplete answer. It was a terrible answer. He was stumbling and mumbling, and he's going like, well, I don't know. Okay. Then they asked the question to me, well, what would you do? I said, I'd prove it immediately, but I'd make it also much worse. They said, what do you mean? I said, I'd do much worse. I said, they're chopping off our heads in the Middle East. They want to kill us. They want to kill us. They want to kill our country. They want to knock out our cities. And don't tell me it doesn't work. Torture works, okay, folks? Torture, you know, I have these guys. Torture doesn't work. Believe me, it works, okay? And waterboarding is your minor form. Some people say it's not actually torture. Let's assume it is. But they asked me the question, what do you think of waterboarding? Absolutely fine. But we should go much stronger than waterboarding. That's the way I feel. They're chopping off heads. Believe me, we should go much stronger because our country's in trouble. We're in danger. We have people that want to do really bad things. Remember the power of weaponry. This isn't 100 years ago where we fight hand-to-hand combat. This is weapons that are so destructive that the world could end. We have to be very strong, and we have to be very vigilant, and we have to be very tough. Waterboarding is fine, but it's not nearly tough enough, okay?
The Geneva Conventions and enhanced interrogation. Do you think that they should allow for that, given the rise of ISIS?
I am a person that believes in enhanced interrogation, yes.
The problem is we have the Geneva Conventions, all sorts of rules and regulations, so the soldiers are afraid to fight.
Right? Laws that make us dead. Because who the fuck gives a shit about the moral high ground, as long as you do a good job, right? Except you're not doing a good job, because torture does not work under any circumstance. Torture is just cruel, evil, and immoral. And by appointing Gina Haspel to the status of being the director of the CIA, it proves that Donald Trump is an evil piece of shit. This woman is without a doubt fucking evil. Here is a picture, here's a little, like, point-by-point thing from the ACLU. The ACLU is the American Civil Liberties Union. The whole point of why they exist is to defend your constitutional rights, is to protect your ass. No matter what your political ideology is, you could be a fucking neo-Nazi fascist piece of shit or a fucking left-wing person, and they will defend your right to free speech, and they will defend your constitutional rights in general, because that is their fucking job. And I will give credit to Senator Rand Paul, the son of Ron Paul, for saying he will vote against Trump, director of CIA. Because if you're against torture, you do that. I have no doubt that Senator Sanders will also be voting against this bitch's nomination. And if you've got a problem with me calling this woman a bitch, if someone who enjoys torture cannot be considered a bitch, then you need to get the fuck out of your own fucking little safe space and stop getting offended by the word bitch. Because there's certain people in the fucking world that deserve to be called that. And this is one of them. And then, of course, you have the fucking idiots who are trying to be pseudo-PC or whatever, trying to be all like, ooh, look, the first woman head of the CIA. How great is that? Ooh, how progressive of Donald Trump. He appoints a fucking woman who has a shady as fuck record. Now, where the fuck have I heard that? A candidate? A person in politics who has a shady as fuck record. You all should fill in the blank and know who the fuck I'm talking about, right? It's like I'm not shocked. It's like I knew this would happen. It's like, no shit, he appoints the head of Bush's CIA torture program. No duh, right? No duh, of course he does this. If you talk shit about the Geneva Convention, it's obvious you're going to appoint someone like this to a critical and important fucking position of power. So yeah, I hope the CIA gets leaked, I hope this woman gets called out, and I salute whoever the fuck the future whistleblower is that calls this bitch out on her future fucked up war crimes. And if you're going, oh, she hasn't done anything, I'm going off by her fucking record as it is, as being one of the worst fucking Americans in this country's history, as being a vile, evil person. And again, if I cannot call someone who loved torture, because, okay, there was a great clip from Democracy Now! Where you had a CIA whistleblower who was around during G. Hasbel's operations as a CIA agent. Here's what he had to say about her.
John Kiriakou, welcome back to Democracy Now! Can you respond to President Trump's decision to fire Rex Tillerson and replace Tillerson with Pompeo as Secretary of State? Pompeo, head of the CIA, would be then replaced by the Deputy Director of the CIA, Gina Haspel.
Well, so many of us believed a year ago that Rex Tillerson was going to be the adult in the room at the White House. That turned out to be the case in a way, but he was so disrespected by this president and those around him that he was probably doomed from the beginning. On Mike Pompeo, I've said from the beginning, you can disagree with him politically and ideologically, but he doesn't have the kind of baggage that Gina Haspel has. I wouldn't have chosen Mike Pompeo to be the Secretary of State, but I guess in the greater scheme of things, we could have done worse. Gina Haspel, however, is a problem, a big problem. I've been talking about Gina Haspel for more than a year. She was a dreadful choice to be the deputy director. She's a worse choice to be the director. I think it's wonderful that there's a possibility of a woman heading the CIA, but there are 50 different women who are qualified to lead the CIA. It shouldn't be Gina Haspel.
So talk about why you and others called her Bloody Gina.
We did call her Bloody Gina. Gina was always very quick and very willing to use force. You know, there was a group of officers in the CIA's counterterrorism center when I was serving there, who I hate to even make the accusation out loud, but I'm going to say it, who enjoyed using force. Yeah, everybody knew that torture didn't work. That's not even the issue. Lots of different things work. Was it moral, and was it ethical, and was it legal? I think the answers to those questions are very clearly no. But Gina and people like Gina did it, I think, because they enjoyed doing it. They tortured just for the sake of torture, not for the sake of gathering information.
And And can you talk more specifically about Gina Haspel heading up the secret CIA black site in Thailand? And for those who aren't familiar with even what a black site is, and the fact that she not only headed it up, but was directly involved with the torture.
First, let me preface any comments that I make by saying that the CIA's Publications Review Board is specifically prohibiting me from talking about Gina Haspel's resume, especially her overseas duty. With that said, the media has reported extensively on what Gina Haspel has done over the course of her career, so I'll leave it at that. With that said, a black site is a site that's more or less off the books, meaning it doesn't officially exist. It exists, but nobody is supposed to know that it exists. And in many cases, that includes the congressional oversight committees. So in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, the CIA set up such black sites all around the world, with the idea being that if we captured someone from al-Qaeda or kidnapped someone from al-Qaeda, we could send him to one of these black sites, interrogate him without having to worry about the law, about ethics or morality or the FBI breathing down their backs. They could do whatever they wanted. And that's how this torture program spiraled out of control. There were people who were murdered in the course of their interrogations.
I want you people to understand this shit. And yeah, oh, we're not going to take you seriously because you got comic book posters and shit. What's wrong with you? Listen to the words coming out of my mouth. How hard is it to understand that if the United States has any fucking integrity, if we honor our Constitution, we will never torture. We cannot allow someone like this to have such a high position of authority. Because as a country, we are better than this. As a nation, we are better than this. We should shun this person for what she did. Not welcome them with open arms, not give them the position of power, not vote them in. What kind of society are we if we allow people who torture to be head of our spying program? We are a society of barbarians that knows how to hide barbarism very well. This woman becomes the head of the CIA, and it is disgusting. It's disgusting. It's evil. And I don't use that word lightly. But of course, this is the era of Donald Trump. Evil is expected. And of course, our mainstream press isn't going to pressure the people who defend this type of barbarism. Oh, well, you see, it was a different time. Shut the fuck up with that bullshit argument. We knew torture didn't work. And you know what? Here's something we did. You know who else used waterboarding? If you got an issue with me talking shit about waterboarding, you know who used waterboarding? The Japanese. You know what we did to the Japanese soldiers who waterboarded our guy? We hung them. We hung them. Because we knew it was torture back then. War crimes are war crimes. Torture is torture. Waterboarding is torture. We tortured people. We sexually assaulted people. Our troops did this. So if you wonder why I'm skeptical as hell about the greatness of our military, it's because of the evil that we have committed as a country. It's what the higher-ups have told our soldiers to do. I salute any whistleblower that gets this shit leaked to us, because we the people have the right to know what our military is doing in our name. If they are torturing people, we have the right to know. If they are executing journalists, we have the right to know. And if they are torturing especially, we have the right to see that fucking video footage of them doing it or the audio of it. That is what we have the right to know. We have the right to know what our tax dollars are being used for. If it's being used for torture, that is disgusting. If our politicians are supporting and defending torture, that is evil. I'm just gonna calm down. I think I've made my case. You might see another part of this video, but I doubt it. Live long and prosper and have a nice day.